There's a moment a lot of us experience, and usually when we're not expecting it. You're sitting in your car, minding your own business, maybe listening to the radio, and, or maybe, you're just got up and you're brushing your teeth or brushing your hair, and you're like staring in the mirror. And then it hits you a memory from years ago, a younger version of yourself that you haven't visited in a while. Not the highlight reel version, but the real one. The kid who cried quietly so no one would hear. Or the teenager who felt misplaced, felt like they didn't belong. The young adult pretending that they had it all figured out when they were actually drowning inside. And for a split second, you feel it. You viscerally feel it, the tenderness, the ache, the love you didn't know you still had for them. Welcome back to Real Talk. I'm Dr. Asha, and today I want to talk to you about something that can change the way you move through your entire life. Becoming who you needed. Because we can't rewrite the past. We can't go back and insert the perfect parent, the perfect mentor, friend, or guide into those moments when we felt alone. But we can become the kind of person who would have made it easier to survive. And the choice can transform everything. That choice changes everything. So let's take our time today. Let's talk, let's unpack this, and let's breathe. I remember the exact moment that this idea hit me. I was cleaning up after a long day, dinner dishes everywhere, emails piling up, a million tabs open in my computer and in my mind, and I dropped a spoon. And the spoon, just a simple spoon, just a regular spoon. And for some reason, my entire body said, okay, that's enough. I sat on the floor for a second and laughed because apparently that spoon was the final straw for me. And then out of nowhere, this image of myself at maybe about 9 or 10 years old, it trying so hard to be perfect, trying not to take up too much space to avoid disappointing anyone, popped into my mind. And I realized, wow, she never got to rest. Not really. She learned early on to keep going, keep smiling, keep being easy, keep being strong. And here I was decades later, still doing the same exact thing. And it wasn't the dish that broke me, okay? It was the moment that I noticed how long I had been carrying the same survival instincts, and it has served me well. But that was the moment that I understood, truly, I can't go back and save her, the little girl, the little 9, 10-year-old. But I can stop abandoning her now, in this moment, and I can become who she needed. Pain has a way of handing us lessons, like a teacher you didn't like in school, but secretly learned from them. It's not gentle, it doesn't always explain itself, but it knows what it's doing. I've learned that every painful season carries information. Loss teaches us compassion because we finally understand fragility and that not everything is permanent. Loneliness teaches us presence because we learn to sit with ourselves, to be with ourselves. Disappointment teaches us resilience because it forces us to rebuild. One time years ago, I went through a really nasty breakup that felt like my heart had decided to run a marathon without telling me. I was devastated. I started cleaning out my entire house, which was a personal sign that I was avoiding feelings at the time. I cleaned everything. Shelves, baseboards, pantry, even the top of the fridge, which nobody ever sees up close. Halfway through the scrubbing, I realized that I wasn't crying about that person that I had broken up with. I was crying because the version of me who stayed too long in a relationship that was not meant for me any longer and still hoping to be chosen. It was a very weird sensation, very weird realization at the time, but that insight stayed with me. When you're hurting, the pain is rarely about that moment. It's about another version of yourself, more than likely a younger version of yourself who never got what they needed. Which is why becoming who you needed is not just about healing. It's about giving meaning to that pain. Let's talk about the younger you, not the idealized version of you, about a throwback Thursday, the real version. The you who didn't have the words for what they were feeling, who could not stand up for themselves. The you who internalized things that weren't their fault. The you who laughed loudly to hide the hurt or stayed quiet because you thought silence made you lovable. I once had a client who told me that she felt like she had to earn every bit of affection she received. And she cooked, cleaned, did favors, did well in school, never asked for anything. And she was exhausted and so resentful, but didn't know why. And when we traced it back, she remembered being a kid who was praised only when she performed. But if she made a mistake, there was a lot of criticism. She was also praised only when she was helpful, or only when she made life easier for someone else. That little girl grew up into a woman who didn't know how to receive love without working for it. And that's exactly why becoming actually who you need matters. Because you can interpret old patterns, you can give yourself the love, patience, and affirmations that you never received. You can show up for yourself in a way that changes your story. And when you realize that no one is coming to fix it, there's a quiet moment in adulthood when that clicks in. You look around and realize you're the only adult in the room. Nobody's coming to tuck you in. Nobody's coming to tell you that you're doing a good job, to pat you on the back. Nobody's coming to magically erase your insecurities or rewrite your past. And at first, that realization is heavy and uncomfortable. Then surprisingly, you feel kind of empowered. Because when you stop waiting for someone else to save you, you start saving yourself. You begin choosing differently. You show up differently. You speak differently. You act differently. And you realize that you are not only capable of healing, but you are capable of becoming the person your younger self prayed for. And let me tell you a story. A friend of mine grew up in a house where emotions were dismissed. If she cried, she was told to toughen up. Life is just that way. If she was scared, she was told to stop being so dramatic. She learned early on that silence kept the peace. She became hyper independent, always fine and always in control. Fast forward to her adulthood, and I tell you, one day after a stressful week, she broke down in front of her partner. She cried in a way that she had not in years. She apologized between her sobbing. That was her old conditioning, her old survival program. But her partner held her and said, "You don't have to hold everything alone." And she shared with me that moment changed her life. It was hard for her to receive because she didn't believe it at first, but she realized she had spent years of being the strong one, but secretly longing for someone to tell her it was safe to be soft. And even though her partner helped open that door, she said the real work began when she started telling herself the same thing. And that is what becoming who you needed looks like. It is recognizing that wound and choosing a new pattern. It's learning the softness where you once had only armor and hardness. Becoming who you needed is not just one big revelation. It is 1,000 tiny choices that add up. Here's what it might look like. You stop talking to yourself like an enemy. You start being kind to yourself. You choose rest without guilt. You say no without apologizing. You say no without explaining yourself. You set boundaries knowing that they protect your peace. You speak up when something doesn't feel right. You care about your health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Nobody else will do that for you. You listen to your intuition because it has a much better track record than your fears. And you soften instead of shutting down. These aren't personality changes. These are really reparenting moments for yourself. They're healing moments. They are you rewriting the script one breath at a time. There was a day when I knew without a question that I had become someone different. I was late for something important. I was stuck in traffic and my mind started spiraling, just an old habit. And I felt the stress rising and the old voice wanted to say, "Why didn't you plan better? Why can't you get your act together?" And instead, something new happened, which was great. A quieter voice stepped in, a calmer one, and said, "You're doing the best. This moment's going to pass. It's okay. Just breathe." And I didn't have that voice all the time growing up. I didn't have that voice all the time in my 20s, but I had it now. And that moment felt like meeting the person I always needed to be by my side to tell me it's going to be okay. Not someone perfect, just someone kind, someone present. And it felt like I was coming home. And there's a meaning behind your healing. There's a purpose behind your growth. When you become who you needed, your present creates safety. Your truth gives others permission. Your kindness becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes a map for those who feel lost. You do not have to try to inspire anyone. Simply being yourself does it naturally. Your healing becomes a lighthouse. Not because you're perfect, but because you are a human in a world that often forgets how to be. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Before we finish for today, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and picture your younger self. Pick any age, 5, 11, 17, 23, and see them. See their face, their posture, their hope, their fear. And ask them these questions. What did you need? What were you longing for? What did you never receive? And now whisper to them, I'm here now, and I won't leave you again. Because that is what becoming who you really needed really means. It means you finally stop abandoning yourself. If this episode touched something in you, you're not alone. You are in a season of becoming, and becoming takes courage. Be proud of yourself. Share this episode with someone you love, someone who's trying their best, someone who might need that reminder that they can still become who they once needed. And if you want more of these real conversations, hit the follow button, subscribe, join the community. We grow and heal here, and we listen here. I'm Dr. Asha, and I hope you remember this. You may not be able to rewrite your past, but you can become the kind of person who makes the future gentler to live in. Take care of the person that you are becoming. They are worth it. Till next time.